Relationships take some maintenance, and every time something changes, we have a new challenge on our hands. How do you save your marriage after you have a baby?
Today we're talking about how to save your marriage after having a baby. Relationships, they just take a lot of maintenance.
They do.
And I think sometimes we forget that we need to maintain all of our relationships, especially during seasons of change. As a mother, it's just our nature to become
consumed, really.
Well, consumed, because really you are everything for this child right at the beginning.
And you have to be.
Yeah.
Really.
And that's really okay. And so you got to find a way to maintain the other relationships in your world, especially with your spouse. I think sometimes to maintain that relationship with your spouse, you also have to maintain a relationship with yourself.
There's
and
kind
with
of
other
a
people.
priority here, actually. When we talk about relationships, if we were to put them in order of priority within the family, let's just go within the family for now. I think the number one relationship within the family is yourself. Right?
Right.
And I've shared a story before about a mom that was working with me who I had her list everyone and everything that she's responsible for, that she has to take care of. And she's writing furiously and turns the page and goes to the next page.
Right.
And then she starts slowing down, and pretty soon she's, okay, got it. Guess who was not on the list?
Nowhere was her.
Nowhere.
No name, right.
Who's going to take care of her?
Right.
As she's busy taking care of the baby and take care of her husband.
Right.
So self is first, okay? Second is spouse.
That trips a lot of people up. If I am even going to take care of myself, next has got to be my baby. But the very best thing you can do is have a strong relationship with your spouse.
Yes.
Or whoever your support system is.
That is so important. There are times and seasons, okay? So right after you have a baby, you get consumed with this baby. It's hard to remember that a more important relationship here is the one that you have with your spouse. Now, I have to acknowledge also that there are many of you who are watching who don't have a spouse.
Right.
Or where things are kind of bumpy with the spouse, and that's why we're having this conversation.
Right.
Okay? If you don't have a spouse currently, if you're not in that kind of a relationship, we collapse that list a little bit. You still have to take care of yourself first. If you're married, that spouse is the second most important relationship in the family. Third is children. And I'm not saying they're not important. They made the list. And then after that is extended family, because you got other family besides your spouse and your kids, but they're not as important to you as your spouse and your kids.
Right. And sometimes taking care of yourself is maintaining some relationships otherwise as well. It might be a friend. Part of taking care of yourself is hanging out with a friend or something like that, or a hobby. So just remember to take care of yourself.
In fact, that's probably one of the hardest things to do when you want to work on your marriage, but you've got this new baby.
Yeah.
It's hard to think, oh, I should take care of myself too. We're saying do that first. Take care of yourself first. I was on a plane yesterday, Vicki. You know, the oxygen mask routine, and then they're like, put these oxygen masks on. Put your own first, and then help the child that you're traveling with or someone who needs your assistance.
So take time for yourself and find ways to build yourself back up. I remember after I'd had maybe 3 kids, I went out to lunch with my sister who didn't have children yet. And I was telling her how I just kind of felt lost. I didn't even really know what I liked anymore, what made me happy or what I could do. And I was just like, do you know what it's like to feel lost? And she really, truly didn't at that point. I think it's just
she hadn't had a
something that
baby.
comes with children. So you've got to take time for yourself. It doesn't need to be a really long time. I understand. Depending on the different stages of life, you may or may not have a lot of time. But find some time to take for yourself. And at the same time, you've got to make time for your marriage.
You have to make that time.
Yeah, it's a lot of work to organize or do whatever you have to do, enlist other people, but find a way to make time for the marriage itself.
So let me address that for a moment too, because we're not in this alone, and you will need to enroll some resources in order to do this. You might have people in your community, in your apartment complex, in your neighborhood, who are willing and available and trustworthy to watch your baby for you while you take time for yourself and make time for your marriage. This is one of the best things that you can do for your child, because you're creating a much more stable home environment for that child by working on yourself. and on your marriage. And you might be surprised to find that other people are in the same boat.
There are other people that need the help. We used to do a lot of things like that when I had little ones at home. We would find ways to help one another out. Maybe we would trade, and for 2 hours on one Tuesday, I would watch their kids while they got 2 hours off to do whatever they needed to do. And then vice versa, the next week, I got my 2 hours.
So it's an exchange.
Yeah.
It's a trade-off.
Yeah, it's a great way to find the support that you need for yourself, which then gives you some of the energy you need to work on your marriage.
Right. And you're not in this alone. Thank you for being here and for caring enough about your family to create a peaceful environment at home through these skills and strategies. Vicki and I are so happy to be on your team. And if you haven't connected yet to the Parenting Power Up, you can do it right over there, or there's a link down below, parentingpowerup.com. You get to hear more wisdom from this brilliant lady.
And hopefully build a little bit more peaceful home for you.
Yes. Won't that feel great?
phone.